Hello friends. Today we're going to do a Photoshop tutorial. I'm basically going to show you how to navigate the program. Photoshop is a program that is used primarily for photo editing and manipulation, but it also is a painting program. So you can do a lot of painting or illustrating in Photoshop. So depending on what you kind of want to work on when you first open up Photoshop, you're either going to create a new document, which is mostly what you would do if you were going to paint or do any sort of illustration and create something from nothing, or you want to open your images. So unlike some of the other Adobe programs where you kind of always start with a new page, if you're going to manipulate or edit a photo, you want to open that photo directly into Photoshop. So Photoshop will allow you to open up any type of file that you, image file that you might be working with. So a JPEG, a PNG, even a PDF, and all the ones that you're kind of familiar with. EPS would probably open in Illustrator, but you could also open that in Photoshop. So pretty much any image file you could open in Photoshop. I have an image here that I'm going to just open up. It's from Unsplash, which is a website. It's a great resource for free images. This particular image was taken by someone named Nick Jones, so if you like his work, I do want to give him credit for this photograph. So basically when you open up Photoshop, it's laid out like a lot of the other Adobe suite programs. So like Illustrator or InDesign, you're going to have your toolbar on the left, you're going to have what's called your control bar at the top, and all of your panels on the right. Now, this is called your workspace, okay? And then your actual image or the space that you're working in is called your canvas in Photoshop. So all of this is modular. You can kind of have it set up any way you want. There's defaults that are already built into Photoshop. So up here at the top right, you'll see a little thing that looks kind of like a window, or it might say workspace, and a little drop down. You'll notice that underneath of that, you'll see it says Essentials, 3D, Motion, Painting, Photography, Graphic, and Web. And basically, these are all of the different workspaces. So as I change them, if you're really doing a lot of painting, this is what Photoshop has determined as the best setup for painting. If you're going to be working in photography, this is the best setup for you. Now, these are just what Adobe thinks are the best setup, but if you are working in this program all the time and you know that you like to work with certain panels, you will have your toolbar a certain way, what you can do is you can actually save your own workspace. So let me just navigate you through this workspace first. You'll notice that at the top of each panel, including the toolbar, you're going to have this double arrow. Basically what that means is that it either expands it if it's pointing to the right, or if it's pointing to the left, it's going to collapse it. So you can see that my toolbar I can either have as a single column or a double column. I like to have it as a double column. That's just, again, a personal preference. But I feel like I have a better way of seeing all of my tools, okay? The same thing with your panels. Your panels have kind of three ways that they can be. They can be collapsed, which is in this small just icon format. They can be collapsed but expanded, which is where it is your icon plus the name of the panel. Or it can be completely expanded like your layers panel. So if I collapse my layers panel, you'll see that it collapses down to the icon. If I have it as the icon and the text, I can just go to the edge of the panel and I can drag it so that it makes it smaller and it's just showing me the icon. Now, personally, when I'm working in Photoshop, the two panels that I use most often is going to be my properties panel and my layers panel. My layers panel, everybody's layers panel, you're going to want to have that open because any kind of layers that you put on here, you'll be able to see each one of them. Now, I also have another setting on my layers panel that I think makes it a little bit easier. You've got this thumbnail that shows your image. If you go to the top of the right of the layers panel and you click on what's called the fly down menu. That's where you see a bunch of lines at the top right. Down, if you scroll down, you're going to see where it says panel options. And when you click on that, you'll see that you have different sizes that your thumbnail can be. So the normal thumbnail size is this very tiny one, and so it looks like this. It can be difficult to see, so especially when I'm teaching, I like to have it on the larger size so that everyone can see it more clearly and see what's going on inside of those layers and those little thumbnails, because those thumbnails really give you cues as to what's going on in the image, especially when you start to have more and more layers. It's a lot easier to be able to see what's going on. In my next video, I'm going to talk more about layers, how to change the name of them, what you can do with them, all that kind of stuff. For this video, I'm just basically talking about how to manipulate your workspace. So again, like I said, you can expand and contract, or expand and collapse these panels. What you also can do is you can rearrange them. So you might notice that they're kind of in groupings. Anytime you see this little kind of hatch mark at the top, that means that that is a group. So right now I have my channels and my paths together. Let's say I want to put my adjustments in with my channels and my paths. I probably wouldn't really do that, but what I would do is I would drag this out, wait till you see that highlighted blue, and then drop it in there, and then that becomes part of it. It's almost like a folder. And then you can kind of move that wherever you want. So I can have it just floating out here. I can drag it. I can drag all of these out. I could individually pull these away from one another and have them all individual. Personally, that would drive me crazy, but if that's something that you like to have that kind of all scattered across your screen, you can go for it. I like to kind of condense mine all into one row so that I actually have more screen real estate for my actual image, and I can collapse these down all the way to the icons. While you're getting to learn what each one of those icons is, it's helpful to have the text there so that if I say, hey, go find your gradients panel, you're not like trying to figure out what these icons mean. You can actually just say, oh, there it says gradients, and click on it. Now, the other thing is that all these panels, you'll notice there's a little X box. I can get rid of these panels completely. What that does is it just removes them from your workspace. It doesn't remove them from the program. It doesn't take them out of play. But if I want to get them back, I would go to Window, and here's my adjustments layer that I deleted. I forget kind of what other layers I had deleted, which is also totally okay, because you might have noticed when we went over here to the workspace with the drop down that there was an option to reset your essentials. And what this does is it basically just brings it back to the default. So I've already made changes to it to be the way that I kind of like set it up, and so this just brings it to the default. So I'm going to go back and set it up the way that I like. So I pull my layers out. I can drag it to the edge here, and you'll see that blue line all the way from the top to the bottom. That allows it to snap into the edge of the workspace. So right now all of my stuff is kind of snapped into the edge of the workspace. All of these panels, I can actually pull all of those out, and you'll see that the entire thing will become the image then, and then each one of these panels will be floating. I like to have mine locked in because it gives me, I feel like I have more control with the imagery, but it's again up to you. So again, if you want to snap it in, you drag it all the way to the edge, you wait till that blue line shows up, and then you let go, and it will clip it into the edge. So I have my layers panel out here, and then I also want my properties panel, and I'm going to clip those two together. It didn't take that time. So again, you have to wait until that blue shows up. There we go. And now those are connected together. The rest of these I'm going to collapse down. I'm going to put this guy over here too, which is my history, and I'm going to collapse all those down to icons, and then I'm going to clip my layers and properties into the edge right there. Now, because this is the way that I'm going to want to work, and I'm going to want my workspace to continually be, I'm going to go back to that workspace, and you'll see it says new workspace. So I'm going to click on that. I get to name it. So I'm going to just say teaching, and I'm going to hit save. And so now when I go to my workspace listing, you'll see that that is one of my custom workspaces. And so if I go to my essentials, and then I go to where it says reset essentials, okay, so now this is the setup for essentials. I'm going to go back to that workspace, and I'm going to go to where it says teaching, and that's going to bring me back to my setup. Okay, the same thing refers to, like, let's say I have a bunch of things that I want to pull up, like my character panel, and I also want my patterns panel. And so I'm pulling up all these panels that I didn't have open before, and I'm going to pull them out and just have them out here. Now let's say your screen gets to be totally a mess, like you've pulled out all these panels and you're like, oh gosh, like I'm using all these panels all the time, but everything's a mess. My whole screen has things scattered all over it. It's kind of like if you've ever seen Mary Poppins, the original, where she is helping them to clean up their nursery and she just kind of snaps her fingers and everything goes back into place. And we all wish that we could do that in real life when things get out of control. This is that same kind of situation. Basically, you can go here, you can go to where it says Reset Teaching, and your original settings as to how you have your workspace will automatically go back to normal. So it's just like snapping your fingers and having that back to the way it was, which is really helpful, especially if you're kind of working on a big project and things start to feel overwhelming. You can just clean up your workspace really quickly and be able to focus on your work. Okay. I think that's pretty much all I want to cover as far as navigation goes. So hopefully this will help you to orient yourself in the program. Actually, before we go, I'm going to show you one other thing that I think is helpful. These are a couple key commands that will help you also navigate your space. So if you hit Command plus, what that's going to do is it's going to zoom into your image. If you hit Command 0, it's going to zoom out of your image. Let's say you're really far zoomed in or really far zoomed out. You can also hit Command 0, and that will bring your page your full page into view. Another thing that I find really helpful in this program is, let's say you are working really tightly into your image, and let's say I have a trackpad on my laptop, so I can just use 2 fingers to kind of like move it around. However, if you don't have that option, you're working with a mouse, if you press the keyboard, you'll get, whenever you're working with any tool, when you press, I said the keyboard, what I meant was the space bar. If you press the space bar, you're going to get the hand symbol. And that hand symbol allows you to click and drag. You're not making any changes to the image. You're just dragging it so you can zoom in on a specific area. Okay, so this is again a way to kind of help you to move around your canvas while you're working in the program. All right, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them at the bottom of this video and I will try to answer them in another video. Hope this is helpful.